Oh, Jesse's here. Fantastic.
They can actually hear us. That's the cool thing.
Even now?
Oh my God, Jesse's with us.
I have no idea how to even type in the chat, so.
Are we live?
Oh no. It looped. It looped. Jesse!
Live from LinkedIn. It's a Whiskey Wednesday. What's up, y'all?
Holy crap.
How's it going?
Before I even get started, two things. First one, I looped that video. Shit happens. It is what it is. Second, if you're watching, Jesse literally just logged on like 10 seconds before we started. Jesse, tell them where you were, your entire journey of how you just got here, and then let's just start with introducing our guests.
Well, I'm at my in-laws right now, and I'm afraid my internet is spotty. So if I'm glitching, I'm sorry. Is it
You're
okay?
great. Yeah, great.
Okay. Well, I just literally got here, left Poland this morning, and then went to Munich, and now here we are. But I made it, and we were only delayed a little bit, but still made it here on time. But yeah, I saw that you were live, and the video was playing, and there was talking, so I was a little bit confused of what was going on. But thank you so much for being here.
I'm super happy you're here. I'm not gonna lie. I was telling both of our guests that you may be late, and then you just showed up like in the nick of time. Like that, just unbelievable on your commitment. I love that. So look, let's just jump right into it. I'll get into guests. I know that we didn't brief each other, but I'm super thrilled that you're here, Jess. Like, this is my partner in crime. So let's just get right into it and get into intros. We are very, very lucky to have the two guests that we have today. I feel honored, and I think everybody should be also. I'll get into it. So the gentleman that you see on that screen, I believe does not need any introduction, but I will do so anyways. So Cliff is the VP of Sales for Carabiner Group. And for those of you who do not know, if you've seen Amelia Taylor on our show here before, Cliff is actually her sales leader. So we are bound to get some pretty cool insight here. And also, he is the executive chapter head of Pavilion in New Jersey. That would be Cliff. let's get right into MJ. So MJ has an extensive background in marketing, which eventually landed her actually in a VP role at Refine Labs. A lot of you know who they are on LinkedIn. You have a ton of people that are contributing there. She worked with Chris Walker and his team, and it was now the VP of marketing in Colab. So you definitely want to sit tight and listen to what she has to say. I'm telling you right now, I've read her stuff. Brilliant. Now, again, an honor to have you both here. But before we do get started, I must do our PSA for alcohol. For anybody who is watching, yes, there is whiskey in Whiskey Wednesday as the name, but we do not promote the use of alcohol on any level. If you do decide to drink, please do so responsibly and do not drink and drive. For tonight, you can choose to drink anything you like, either be alcoholic, it could be coffee, tea, juice. Please go ahead and have fun with it. So why don't we get into our first topic? That would be, as you clearly have all seen,
wait, first, can I just show you my in-laws like liquor selection? I'm not really sure what I'm going to drink, but I haven't poured one yet.
Just take one.
All right, I'll do it.
All right, so what do you think, Jess? Should we jump into first topic?
Please, please.
Love it. Okay, so this one actually came from Cliff. So Cliff, again, the VP of sales. I went with multi-threading the right way. I've personally been told by somebody who works with Cliff that Cliff is pretty great at this. So I'm going to let you just jump in and talk about it.
I mean, it's super important, right? And thanks for having me and MJ on the show. Really appreciate it. It's fun to be able to be in a lighthearted environment at 9:50 at night doing this, right? No, multi-threading is super important, right? I think it's one of those things that people sort of forget about, like you get tunnel vision, especially if the typical salesperson thinks about a sales cycle being super linear, and it's really not, right? There's all of these pressures and doors you have to unlock in that buyer's journey, and you have to really make sure that you're getting buy-in from all of the appropriate people. It was like 85% of the sales process happens when you're not even in the room, or in this case on the Zoom call. So making sure that you're multi-threaded with the economic decision maker, the internal champion, the power users, and that executive decision maker is going to help you bring that deal in faster and make sure that you're aligning expectations appropriately, both before and after the contract gets signed. Evan and Williams, holy crap. That brings me back to college.
Can you show that again, Jess? Oh, you're on mute. You're actually on mute.
Sorry, yeah, I was trying not to make noise while he was talking, but is this a good one? I don't know. There was a Jack Daniels over there, but I'd never heard of Evan Williams. You said college, so is that a bad thing?
He's saying college, right?
I must. It's Whiskey Wednesday. Somebody's asking us if nobody's drinking Whiskey Wednesday, so there you go. Drinking whiskey. So, Cliff, as far as us getting into multi-threading, can you give us an example of some of, let's say, the sequences that you live in, some of the things that you're doing right now so that you can do different forms of outreach with different channels?
Yeah, and most of it happens when we're actually in the account. It's talking and asking good questions, finding out if they've ever purchased this type of solution before. If they have, what are the criteria for it? Who's been involved in that in the past? Do they have an official procurement process? If you're going through that process, who needs to be involved and what's the timeline? Do they typically run a sales process at the same time that they run you through legal, so that you're not being stuck 2 weeks on the end of being to agree terms to having to get all of your indemnification, whatever state of law that you're going to be working in, right? So all those different pieces you can work together to nail down and reduce time on that sales cycle.
That is a wonderful answer. MJ, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. I know that you were the VP of growth before, and this is definitely a hot topic for you.
Yeah. So at Refine Labs, I ran sales and marketing, but it was not a traditional sales motion. 100% of our sales were inbound, and I was VP of growth, but I actually did all of the selling for like the first 7 months, and then we onboarded a director of sales who had one person reporting to him. Now I think he might have more than that, but I was kind of like an account executive SME for a little while, and then trained the first couple of sales hires. A lot of times we had inbound directly from the decision maker. So we had like a VP of marketing or CMO come straight inbound to us. So that obviously made things super easy. So I guess it's sort of, it goes to show you that if you've got like a really successful inbound motion, which, I mean, to be fair, what Chris Walker put in place there, the foundations of that, extremely hard to replicate, obviously incredibly successful, and what helped the company go from, low 7 figures to mid 8 figures in the 12 months that I was there, makes this whole sales process a lot different and a lot easier. So I think I have a little bit of a different perspective on that just because of the nature of that role. But I guess it goes to show you how powerful inbound can be.
You know what? That's actually good that you said that when it comes to inbound. Now, both of you, I'm sure you get inbound, especially from the efforts that you're going through with your own marketing team. Now, here's a good question. When you do get inbound, let's just say that inbound was hot and started getting cold. What do you use and what approach in multi-thread are you using to make sure that you're keeping the conversation hot?
At least for us, it's really interesting, right? Because our typical sales cycle is so stinking fast, right? If you are a SaaS company that's engaging with us, you're typically buying within 24 days. And if it's lagged beyond 45 and there's not an actual mitigating circumstance that's causing that, it's usually time for us to abandon because they're not ready to buy. So it's not even are we trying to save that? We're really trying to qualify people out of the sales process more than we're trying to qualify them in.
Mm-hmm. So this is good for a lot of people who are listening here in sales. What are some of the triggers or indications for you, Cliff, that you see that this is needed to be abandoned or it's already being abandoned?
Lack of communication. Are they not being responsive? Are they not following up on that next step that we've set at the end of that call? And those are typically it for us. If they're not being communicative within like a week to 2 week period, it's usually gone cold and it's not worthwhile, or they're just kicking tires and it's not really something that they're serious about solving in the here and now. Okay.
MJ, what are your thoughts on inbound getting hot to cold? And then what's the approach it's taken, at least multi-thread?
Refine Labs very similar to Carabiner in the fact that it was about a 3-week sales cycle, and we did a lot of qualifying out, definitely as much as qualifying in. Colab is like a 6-month sales cycle, so definitely a little bit different. I think it's important to set the tone on the first call and make that first call really, really valuable for the prospect. So I think a trap is like too much discovery in the first call because the prospect feels like they're giving and giving and giving and not getting anything. And it's so easy to fall into that trap because frankly, a typical first call is going to be 30 minutes. And doing an entire discovery in 15 minutes is really hard. Like even if you're a great salesperson, that's really hard to do. And so I think really like dialing in your sales process, like what amount of discovery do you want to fit into the first call? And what are like the 4 questions that you need to ask to get that done is really important so that you can leave 15 minutes to share from your experience from talking to other customers and give value and keep the prospect engaged from the start. Because I think when people go cold, it's because they have a bad experience on those first couple of calls.
I got to agree with you on that one. I've had a salesperson tell me just from basic reaching out on LinkedIn, wanted some coaching, talking about another mentor of that person told them that all you need to ask is 2 or 3 questions in discovery and you know everything you need to know so you can continue sales process. It was complete hooey bullshit in this case. I think that, like you said, you need time, right? There are sensitive questions sometimes you need to ask. There are emotional questions. There's business related questions, all of these things so that you can truly understand the parameter and also the pathway to get to the end. And I like that you said that. Both of you right now you were in a shorter sales cycle, but MJ, you're in a longer sales cycle now. So is there something that's a lot different, let's say, when it comes to tools or the outreach that you're doing? Or here's a good question, actually. Are you still using some of the stuff you were using before now in Colab?
I don't even think I've been here for a full sales cycle, so I probably have better insights for you on that in about 12 months.
But
I will say Colab has an outbound motion where Refine Labs did not, at least while I was there. And so the outbound and the inbound first call experience is always going to be a little bit different. Our outbound, we are speaking about typically a specific outcome that a similar customer has experienced using our platform as the customer we are reaching out to. So somebody agrees to the meeting, they want to hear about how the other customer delivered that outcome, right? And so if they come to the meeting and all you do is discovery, that's going to be a bad experience, right? Whereas inbound, they have done their research, they found something particular that resonates with them, they're probably going to mention it in the form. But they're also just like more invested and willing to give a little bit more in terms of discovery in exchange for that value, or the value exchange that happens on the first call.
Yeah.
So I tend to find that the stakes for that first call are a little bit higher with outbound than with inbound. And that's an interesting thing to see the comparison between moving from an organization that was 100% inbound to an organization that's attempting to get to 50-50 inbound, outbound.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because my background is in mid-market and enterprise sales, right? 6 to 18 month sales cycles. Mm-hmm. And it's been fun going into something like this where it feels a little bit more transactional. You get that dopamine hit quicker and quicker. But what I find is sort of like this same through line from an inbound motion to an outbound motion is getting away from the bad habits that a lot of salespeople have, which is, I hear that you have a problem, I'm going to pitch you a solution. Maybe I'll summarize, but then I'm going to pitch you a solution. They're never getting to that next thing. And what I've found to be super successful with my career, what I've seen really good salespeople do throughout their careers too, and what I teach my team to do is to get way beyond that, right? Empathize, summarize, but then ask about what's going on within the business. Drive at the impact factors so that you can create the urgency and create that mind space for them to actually talk through their problems with you and be consultative, right? Don't just try to find a way to solve their issues. Workshop it together. Now, instead of being opposite sides of the table, you're working side by side. You're working kitty corner. You're on the whiteboard together. You're imagining how a solution can work. And now you're no longer a salesperson. You're someone that they can confide in and they can bounce ideas off of.
So I love that you said that. And especially when you're saying side by side, I think one thing that a lot of salespeople are not doing, but again, they talk about this a lot, but they're not necessarily doing it themselves, is the fact that we're seen as the ones that are working for, but what you just said is really working with. And I think this is something we need to emphasize more on. And I don't think it's talked about enough, but when it comes to the inbound, it's probably more emphasized there than outbound. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I truly think that comparison and that contrast is there. Okay. Any other comments on multi-threading before we move on to the next step?
No, just calling up Jesse. Yes, I am a big assessment guy.
Let me put that on. Hold on. There we go. So Jesse's asking if Cliff is a big assessment guy. I think you are. When I first met you, you could see that you're quite analytical, but you're also quite, what's the word I'm looking for? You're also very creative. So I think those two things together, that cohesion is actually pretty cool. Not a lot of people have that within our space. So we need a little bit more of that.
I only found that out recently. Thanks, StrengthsFinder.
I got you. All right, so let's get into the next subject. I know Jesse's still with us, but she's having connection problems with video. Nonetheless, this one I actually took off of reading one of MJ's posts. This one hits a little bit home for me, but I will say it is websites. Are they still good for lead gen in a world where there's so many different ways of acquiring customers, such as social selling or outbound and so forth? Love to get your thoughts, MJ.
Yeah, I think the short answer to this is yes, absolutely. The website is going to be a critical touch point for almost anyone that is going to, convert inbound, trying to contact your organization. How much of the learning happens on the website versus on other channels or in the sales process is gonna vary from business to business, but in general, I think that customers like consuming content via a website. And I think customers expect to consume more product marketing content on a website, and they expect to consume more like thought leadership content via other channels. So the website is a great opportunity to package up your product marketing work and really convey your messaging in as concise of a way as possible to educate people and hopefully get them to convert. And so in my mind, if you think about a marketing funnel as top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, I would almost look at bottom of the funnel as marketing to accounts that are already in the pipeline. Website is kind of that product marketing layer in the middle. And then, at the top, you've got thought leadership, brand awareness content that you might share on other channels.
Cliff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I know my main title is sales, but I also own revenue. So marketing, CS, RevOps, partnerships all do fall into me here too. I love the website. I think websites are not dead, right? You need a place for people to be able to go, to be able to interact with you. LinkedIn's fantastic. Being able to find your individual folks in other channels, whether that's, I know we do stuff on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, but you need that sort of home base, right? And being able to use great tools around that particular home base of the website to be able to look at things like intent and analytics there, I think are super, super important. Right. I want to be able to know who's coming in, understand that first party data. We typically get a pretty solid amount of hits for a company our size that spends literally $0 on marketing to the website. And they actually do convert at a higher rate than any of our other channels. So
it's funny you actually
I like that. What, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I was gonna say, I like what Jesse said. Your website is your best salesperson. But I also like what Chris Walker says about websites is like, they don't create demand, but they capture demand. And I think that's a really great way to think about it. Yeah.
It's also worth pointing out that like, if you don't have a website that you're using for lead generation, not only does someone not have a place to land if they find you through thought leadership, through LinkedIn, through podcast, whatever, also, you can't do SEO. Like SEO is a website thing, right? So the website is a channel if you're doing SEO. And I know that like some people are kind of anti-SEO or not, like they're, SEO is on a downtrend, right? But I feel like SEO absolutely has its place in a business strategy. And so it's
I agree with you.
That is it for SEO.
Well, Jesse,
I'm very pro SEO, just for the record.
That was my question. I know you're pro SEO, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this because coming from marketing, I thought about you as I was actually going through MJ's post and looking, I'm like, Jesse would love this subject. I'm hoping to God that she'll make it to this one. So knowing what you know about how you build websites and everything around the realm of SEO and driving traffic towards it, one question I do have, and this is for everybody, because I've been hearing more and more about how people are trying to condense websites instead of making them like your elaborate 50 to 100 pages, or trying to condense it and make it more concise and more impactful so that when you land on a landing page, you almost just need that landing page to get that person to next steps. So do you think that you still need what was the norm before of 50 to 100 pages, or do you think you can get away with something like 3 to 5?
I mean, again, I think Chris Walker really sums it up well, is that your website captures demand. It doesn't create demand. So if you want to create demand, you got to go to other channels. You got to get on LinkedIn. You've got to, find where your audience is and create demand there. So in terms of capturing demand, there are people who are on Google and they are searching. So, I mean, I think what it comes down to is, people have abused it. And they've like, oh my God, I got to get out, like a marketer, like I got to get out like 6 blogs a week, right? Like this is just what I have to do because that's the goal that was set for me. And I think that's where the problem was created, because then you have all this crappy content that's stuffed with keywords being put out there that maybe it'll rank, but Google will soon figure out that people aren't visiting those pages. And, so like, what it comes down to is you want to create quality content. And if that's 1 blog a month, then I think that's great because you can repurpose it. But I wouldn't spend all my time just, stuffing keywords. I would definitely make sure I'm optimizing it, putting in the meta description, adding the alt image tag, that takes 3 minutes. Just take 3 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes, optimize it. Don't spend all the time doing it. But yeah, I think that having content on your website and having multiple, which means having more than 3 to 5 pages on your website, is a good thing because it builds the credibility of your website so you can capture demand on those search engines.
Heck yeah. So 2 things. First, we just getting close to 20 minutes in and we're already over 100 comments. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. We have a question from Andrew. So we've actually covered this before in a previous episode. What is the difference between lead gen and demand gen? Now I'm going to leave the floor open to MJ or to Cliff. Either one of you can answer the question. I would love to know
first, please.
I think there's probably like 2 definitions of lead gen versus demand gen. There's the definition where lead gen is evil and demand gen is the right way. So that's like, lead gen is like just trying to get people to give you their email and convert. It's very conversion focused, right? and it doesn't necessarily acknowledge the intent of the buyer, right? Like you get their email, if they fill out a form, you win, right? The end game is not actually to get them to want to talk to sales, it's just to get them to fill out the form. Versus demand gen, you're trying to create demand, right? You're trying to increase the amount of desire people have to buy your product, and therefore the amount of desire people have to hop on a call with a salesperson. Alternatively, though, I do think some people just use the term lead gen because it was around and popular for longer than demand gen. And so in that regard, I think you'll sometimes hear people use lead gen just because they haven't like changed their terminology to demand gen, probably because they don't spend as much time on LinkedIn listening to the lead gen versus demand gen chatter that all of us, all of us are exposed to all the time.
I feel like we're quite lucky in this space. I'm not going to lie. Being able to actually be ahead of the curve. I mean, that's another subject in its entirety, but nonetheless. Cliff, what do you think?
I'm a demand gen guy, right? It's all about capturing intent, whether or not you're grabbing that off your website or you're getting that anecdotally through folks that you're talking to, or you're actually getting people to ping you and fill out that CTA, right? Intent is what matters. That's what we preach to all our clients.
I'm so glad you said intent, Cliff. That is such an important word. Thank you for mentioning that.
What I found interesting though is the role of like a demand gen manager. Like if demand gen is creating intent to purchase or creating the desire to go into a sales motion, then why are most demand gen managers like just focused on paid media? Like or like that's not I'm not saying all demand gen managers are only focused on paid media, but like a lot of job descriptions are like super paid media heavy. When you see a job description for a demand gen manager. And I've always said, like, I think a couple of weeks ago, Pep from Winter CXL, he posted like, how do I find a demand creator, right? I advertise for a demand gen manager and everybody's just running, paid search and paid social. Like, how do I find somebody who truly creates demand? And I tweeted back at him and said, I think what you want is like a very scrappy product marketer, because I think it's really hard to separate product marketing from demand gen. And so like, if you understand the product marketing piece of it, that's the beginning of creating demand, and it's just a matter of executing from there. But it's just interesting to me, like demand gen versus the actual role of a demand gen manager.
And I think it's interesting too. Like, for us, we typically don't focus on what most people would consider regular marketing costs, right? We don't do any paid search. We don't do any SEO. We don't do any of that. What we have doubled down on is social selling in communities where we know our buyers go to get their insights, and then doubling down on event marketing, right? So in our particular case, we have a 30-person suite. It's the largest suite in the heart of our ICP and SAP center, right? Center Ice. We've done 40 plus events there, getting like 85% fill rates on those boxes. And it's been great, right? Because we're giving people a premium experience, and we're able to sort of set up this kill room to be able to have good conversations with their peers. So now it's a place where they can have awesome conversations and gain learning and understanding, and not just, are they interested in us? Are they interested in having good ideas and formulating that and bringing that back to their companies?
I got to tell you, something you just said is going against something that right now is becoming more popular on LinkedIn, about how they're saying that building a relationship is dying. It's all about impact. I know. And what you just said clearly describes something that is completely against what they're saying. And I've always been the type that says build relationships, but I'm seeing these individuals writing on these posts about how relationships are dying now. You no longer need it. COVID has proven that you can use digital, digital channels so that you don't actually have to go meet with any of your prospects or your clients. I just want to get your thoughts, Cliff, because you just mentioned that you're literally in person, in a box.
Impact is the most important thing that you can bring to a client, right? But all impact is the value that you're promising to bring to a client, right? You need to be able to bring them that value and have that impact be realized, right?
Yeah.
Relationships are the best way to do that, because if you can have a relationship with somebody, you can actually affect the way they think. You can have the influence. That's the important part of the equation. Once you've gotten in the door, the execution becomes the easy part, right? That's the stuff that you and the people that you've hired or the product that you've created should take over, right? You shouldn't be selling something that doesn't actually work, right? That's disingenuous. And that, I think you have a fiduciary responsibility to your clients to provide them what you say you're going to provide them. But it all starts with the relationship.
Well said. Anybody want to just touch on that or elaborate on it before we move on?
Well, Jesse says the gurus won't like that question.
I don't think they will. And what I was trying to say,
Jesse, I don't believe in gurus.
I saw that in our chat before we started the show, and I was super confused about everybody's being a wizard. Cliff, tell me what you were saying in the chat and what you meant by that, because I got confused at first, and then I found it really funny after.
No, it's just like, I don't think anyone's truly a guru, right? Everyone's sort of just trying to figure it out. And there's things that have worked for some folks that aren't going to work for others. And you have to understand the specific use case of that particular company and what they're working on. But it feels so often that you've got these gurus and you try to figure out like what the magic is, and you go there and they're just the Wizard of Oz, right? They're a guy standing behind a curtain. There's nothing really there. You open the door and you're left wanting more. So
well,
that seems to be my feeling.
The guru of the week, it kind of came up because Eddy and I feel the same way. We're like, there's all these people out there who walk, or what is it? They talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. So they're out there on LinkedIn, saying all this stuff. So guru was originally something we were thinking of as like, maybe not a positive thing, but we've flipped it because we don't want to go out there and call people out like that.
Sure.
So yeah, there are gurus out there.
It wasn't fun. That one time wasn't really that fun. We realized like that pivot was not the right step. We should have just stuck to the positive side of things. It's more like we're calling out people for the good stuff that they're doing, right? Because that conversation was a little bit awkward when we had it that one time. But nonetheless, it's like commendation, right? We're commending those who are stepping up to the plate and doing something about it. And I mean, all of us here are contributing to LinkedIn as a platform, but I think there are some that take a little bit step too far. And then there's some that are toning it down and being very helpful. And we want to commend the ones that are being very helpful, the ones that are in this kind of in the background, doing their thing and not boasting about it, and just, getting commendations from others on the platform and then letting others see that these people are working in the shadows. I think that's really what it's all about for us as the guru of the week.
I think there's like this interesting dialogue going on though, where like a lot of people are, if you're posting on LinkedIn and you're doing that to build your personal brand and you're doing it at the expense of like your work with your company, you must not be paying attention to your job if you're paying attention to what you're doing on LinkedIn. Now, that's obviously not true for people who are using LinkedIn to generate demand for their business via largely organic content. Like obviously Refine Labs, you post on LinkedIn, that generates a ton of pipeline. But you can make that argument for somebody in a different industry, right? We sell to engineering leaders. Maybe there's not as much of a dialogue going on LinkedIn among them. I personally use LinkedIn as internal marketing. I think LinkedIn posting is internal marketing with social proof. Like I am basically, I post on LinkedIn. It's like I'm giving a 1-minute optional presentation on what we're doing inside the company. And I get social proof because people from other companies are like, this is smart. I like this. I'm going to tag my marketing manager. We should do this too, right? People inside my company are like, oh, good. Our marketing team's doing some good stuff here, right? So I think
it's free QA/QC.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome.
You're 100% right.
Approach.
And I feel the same way as you do, MJ. So in the past, I thought many a times is a lot of the people that are posting like 3-4 times a day, and they're completely active the entire day. Like today was the first time I posted more than once in a very long time. I posted like 4 times, but I'm off today. Like I'm off. Kids are in school. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I just cleaned a little bit, did my thing, got on here, worked a little bit of side projects and did my thing. But normally I post around lunchtime, and then I go into my little impactful thing where I just try to target all the comments, and then you'll see I give up after because I got to go back to work. But you are right. There is, for me at least, this like almost this facade or like this assumption that there are people out there that are, they're there all day long. And you start wondering, like, are you working or are you posting and just chilling?
I mean, you can ask Amelia, but I straight up hired her. Like, one of the main reasons that I really wanted her to come on board is because she's taken the time to build up a personal brand. I think it's so important, right?
Yeah.
Like, go do it. Invest in yourself. Take the time. We as a company will obviously see benefit from that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These things aren't mutually exclusive. You can have a personal brand and build it up and provide value to the company that you work for. Just do it in a respectful way, right? Know the guidelines.
And that's exactly what I was saying today in the post that I was saying, like not to work with an organization that won't allow you to have a side hustle or even a personal brand, right? Because we're all seeing now the effect of personal brands and what they have on businesses and the amount of lead generation that's attached to it, or demand generation, even in this case. And I'm a big advocate of that. I talk about all the time that you need to have a personal brand and build it in public, right? It's just that, again, like you were saying, MJ, before, I've had these, and now my mind's changed a little bit more, but in the past, I used to think about how, like, are we spending all day long and where's the actual work going? But then now you look at kind of the reverse setting of how our work is being conducted in this kind of simultaneous manner of we're doing the work, but also posting to generate more work. And then they work hand in hand. So to go back, I don't want you to think that I was talking about the former. The latter is actually more important, especially now, right? That cohesion between your work and your brand coming together ultimately is going to give you a better output.
Listen, if I wasn't doing anything at work, I would have nothing to talk about on LinkedIn. So when I have breakthroughs at work, that's when I have interesting LinkedIn content.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. So any other
I think it all also comes back down to creating demand, and people connect with people, not brands. I can't remember who said that. Maybe that was another Chris Walker thing or Dave Gerhardt. I don't know. But especially as we move into the future and you think of like Web3, it's only going to become more important. So it's important that individuals understand the importance of their personal brand, but it's also extremely important that companies support this, as Cliff has done for Amelia, and choose people who have personal brands, because it does come with a value. And so I am a CMO at a company that sells consumer data. And so we work with marketers and, so I'm always posting about marketing, ethical marketing, data marketing, because it interests me and that's what I do at work. So it benefits the company that I work for, but yes, it also benefits my brand. And then doing things like this, obviously Whiskey Wednesday, Eddy and I went back and forth in the beginning when we started this, oh my God, can we do Whiskey Wednesday? Is this okay? Are we going to get fired? But, we both took that chance. Also, we both knew we worked for companies that, weren't going to reprimand us for having a voice. So yeah, I think it's really important that people get the message that you do need to have a personal brand. And I think it's only going to become more and more and more important moving into the future.
Yeah, I felt very lucky too. We're in that kind of anxiety phase at one point, if we do this, what's going to happen? But I got support the same way as you did. And just like Cliff was saying that you're giving that support, I was giving support yeah, you do you, man. Doesn't affect what you do, you're good. As long as you make quota or you exceed it, I'm happy. And I just kept
right. Numbers buy you freedom.
That's exactly it.
Exactly.
The proof,
whether that's you hitting your MQL goal or hitting your sales quota or hitting net dollar retention, I don't care.
It is what it is. Just hit your numbers. I'm sitting at, anyways, I'm very happy about this year, let's just say. But nonetheless,
I had one example. I had a DM over my vacation from someone who was like, hey, I saw Whiskey Wednesday and it was so cool, something, something, something. Oh, and can you tell me about BDEX too? And I'm like, so had I not done Whiskey Wednesday, that person never would have even known about BDEX.
Mm-hmm.
Prime example.
So before we get into the halfway point, anything else that we want to cover on what was websites still good for lead generation? No? Okay, so Jesse, I actually have a preloaded video. I think you saw it. Do you want to go ahead and play it? So we have a little halftime video.
I don't know which one it is.
I'll go ahead and put it. So it's a little 1 minute break for all of us, but I'll go ahead and put the 1 minute video from Project Kickass. So they gave us a new video this week for everybody that's watching. This one's actually pretty cool. I didn't know that you could do this with Zoom and StreamYard. So go ahead and watch it. It's from Project Kickass.
Hey everyone, happy Wednesday. How's it going? Great to see all of you on this marvelous hump day. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be on television, and it wasn't as easy as it is now. Nowadays, those kids and their TikTok or my friends with their live streams, any of us can do it. You just gotta, take that step and be brave, which is easier said than done. But with a few virtual tips and tricks, you can be on TV in no time. So let me show you how to do it. So here we are in OBS, which is one of my secrets for virtual success. I already have a main scene here, but I'm just going to add an image. And the image I already have is of a retro TV. So I thought that'd be fun. We're going to browse for it, find it, add it, voila. Now we'll just drag it behind us. And the cool thing is that we can make ourselves smaller to fit right here in this TV. And we can even crop everything so that we are nice and centered in the TV. And therefore, in seconds, wait, I'm a perfectionist. Therefore, in seconds, here we are on TV. And you can put this right into Zoom. You can put this right into StreamYard. You can be on TV, on TV, on TV, Inception style. So as always, thank you so much for having me and have a great rest of the show. And how are you guys doing?
Oh, that was awesome. Doing well, Rebecca.
Thank you, Rebecca. So that was Project Kick-Ass. If you do have any questions, reach out to Rebecca. I'm a huge fan of when it comes to trying to alter things in video, like your snap cameras and so forth. I didn't know about this tool, and I literally started looking into it. And for customer purposes, I can tell you, like, I've done something similar in another platform, and it does give like that oomph, call it. And I've had customers literally ask me, like something like Warmly, for example, where you have your name, your title, and then your logo on the side, and then you put their logo. So to give you an example, I did a discovery once with a prospect. I had my logo, their logo right next to it, and they came on, they're like, oh, that's neat. What's that? Like, I was going to have a conversation to try to sell a product that I wasn't even working with. But nonetheless, it really started the conversation off right. It was like an icebreaker. So thank you for that, Rebecca. I appreciate it. All right, let's jump in to the third topic. Jesse, I know you see it now, so why don't you just kick it off?
All right. Do I see it? Oh, outsourcing sales, good or bad? Who'd like to start off this one?
I think outsourcing sales bad. Hot take. Outsourcing SDRs can be useful, right? Especially if it's a motion that you haven't figured out yet and you want to be able to beta test things in a way that doesn't require you to pick up headcount. That's hard to drop, especially taxes, healthcare, all those associated burdens that people don't think about when they just think about base salaries. And I've seen some really good companies that do that fairly well. Yeah, not a fan of outsourcing the AE function. I think it's too critical. And I think it's too difficult to get somebody outside of your organization to be as passionate and care about your customers as much if they're not actually there to deal with all the ramifications of selling a bad deal and having to manifest all of that together.
I'm going to go last. MJ, what am I going to go?
Yeah, seems bad. I think I pretty much agree with everything that Cliff said. I have also had fairly bad experiences as a buyer with like AEs that were clearly outsourced. I think the outsourcing like gets you a lot of weird compensation models too that drive the wrong behaviors that are not buyer centric.
Jesse?
Well, this is a hard one for me because you probably have all, I don't know if you've heard of Ricky Pearl. He's been on Whiskey Wednesday before. And I think if you're, he, in my opinion, is brilliant and is doing it in a really good way because like because it's the only thing he focuses on, he knows all the tools all the time. He's like the expert in everything. He's testing everything out. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I feel like who was it in the comments that says it depends? Because I could see where hiring a service like Pointer, Ricky Pearl's company, could be really beneficial to some companies, especially those who just don't have like the modern skill set to even like hire a sales manager and train people, I think it could be beneficial for like, I don't want to say old school companies that need that help and need that assistance and they want to build a team, but they need help. And I guess a consultant could do that too. But yeah, I don't know. Outsourced AEs sounds pretty horrible. I've never heard of such a thing. Because when I think of an AE, I'm thinking of like someone I have a relationship with who like works at that company and can help me like go find the IT guy or like do favors for me. So that just sounds really awful. But I could see where, you know, it could be beneficial in other circumstances.
So what you said, and that's why I said I wanted to go last. But Ricky, in this specific situation, is the reason why I wanted to go last, because I wanted to give you a comparison of what they would be. So again, this is a plug, obviously, for Ricky and Pointer. But the one conversation I did have with Ricky is how, and I'll say it in the best way, he is not necessarily, at the time at least, I don't know if it's shifted from like 3-4 months ago, he's very focused on a select group of clients that he wants to work with. This is not a sweatshop style SDR factory, right? You have the Pointers of the world, and you have the sweatshop factories. Those who are just literally pumping out thousands of calls every week or every month, whereas you have this other side, which is Pointer, that's mainly focused on working with a group of clients and trying to maximize that relationship with them to be able to focus on the knowledge they're getting from those clients so that they can maximize their own outputs to their end users. So I'm against the sweatshop style, but I am for the ones that are working with a condensed group so that they can really focus and learn the product or service. So it's a very mixed emotion for me, because being somebody who's actually done it, doing fractional AE work, like you said, I've actually done the fractional AE work, and it is weird. It can get weird, to be perfectly frank, but you can also build a pretty cool network around it. So, but nonetheless, I just wanted to give that as an opinion.
Yeah, I've seen a similar debate, albeit probably slightly less controversial. Should you outsource content? I think less controversial to outsource content than to outsource sales, but all the same arguments, like, you know, you don't know the product, you don't know the industry, you can't be a customer expert. I have personally done a little bit of content outsourcing. And in one particular case, it was a great move because we actually outsourced content to, we were working with like a specialist PR agency that did content and PR, but they focused specifically on one vertical niche. They did only renewable energy. So they helped us position ourselves. They had all these industry contacts. They knew all the journalists. They helped create great content. Like, they knew more about this customer in this subvertical than we did. So we were actually tapping into industry expertise in addition to like content marketing expertise. So I don't know that there's like necessarily similar business models like that are in sales, but I could see if you could tap into both the sales expertise as well as some kind of specialized industry expertise, how that could actually help you level up through outsourcing.
That industry expertise is the thing that sets that apart, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what takes so damn long to learn, right? I typically have my AEs like go spend at minimum an hour a day learning about the industry, right? Yeah, I'm not even drinking. I suppose I'll have to fix that. But you have to have that level of expertise to be able to understand what's going on, both from a micro and macroeconomic perspective.
But you both make an unbelievable point. When you really look at it, if you're focused on one specific vertical or niche, then your efforts, in essence, can be technically maximized. Because if you're going to have, let's say, a SDR shop that's going to be looking to sell, hypothetically speaking here, half of it's going to sell software, the other one's going to sell online car parts. It just won't make any sense, right? It's not like you're staying relevant within, that's a good bottle, by the way. It's not like you're actually staying within this specific vertical. But if you look at it from one side, let's say that they are working only in this one specific industry. If, let's say, they had 3 or 4 different clients that are selling something similar, maybe the features are different, but we know in sales, we're not looking to sell features anyways. We're looking to really talk about the benefit and the end result. We're talking about the purpose, right? We're talking about the mission. As long as those are aligned, we can have better conversations in these SDR shops. But again, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I just think that the ones that have all these different clients from different industries, it becomes difficult, right? You're not able to do the right opening like statement in your conversation. You can't drive next steps because you're not really passionate, like you said, Cliff. There isn't that level of passion that's involved. It's just pumping it in, getting it in. That's all it is.
I think it also takes a lot of discipline to like build a media company for a specific niche, or to build like an outsourced sales company for a specific niche. Like, that's why you don't see that many. But I think for the right entrepreneur with the right amount of discipline, there are niches that you could build a super profitable, super helpful business, like outsourcing by focusing on a specific niche, right? Fintech would probably be one. Cybersecurity would certainly be one. E-commerce would be another one. Like, you could find outsourced sales and marketing help in any of those niches. There are enough companies in all of those verticals with enough cash that you could build a super interesting business.
Yeah, definitely don't do RevOps though, because that place is already like super packed.
So for those who do not know, Cliff works with Carabiner Group, as I said before, and Carabiner Group actually is a service that is outsourced for RevOps. So if you do need RevOps help, Carabiner is, at least for me, the go-to. Right, is the
oh, thanks.
Oh, you're welcome. I think I look at it as top dog. I mean, Amelia can't ever stop talking about it. You know, you're a listener.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amelia's, I mean, when I think of Amelia, I think of someone who's like feels really great about her job. So just FYI, I think that's says a lot about you, Cliff. Yeah, no, she's
just nothing.
She's awesome.
Things. Nothing but bad things.
Nothing but good things to say about Carabiner Group.
Bad things to say.
Yeah.
All right. So, any other points on outsourcing sales from anybody? Okay.
Not from me. Should we get into that fourth topic?
Let's get into that fourth topic. Yeah, this is my favorite one, actually. And we talked about it a little bit.
I just wanted to let you know, since you said you drank that last one in college, I opened up my father-in-law's Jack Daniels instead. Maybe that was a good choice. And I saw you lifted up a bottle. Eddie, were you commenting on his bottle?
No, I was talking about his bottle. His bottle actually is a really good bottle.
What is his bottle? What is it?
Basil Hayden. Oh, sorry. This camera angle. Dark rye. It's really nice.
Oh, okay.
I don't have a bottle. I have a decanter.
Decanter's in the other room. Sorry.
I'm not cool like that. So this subject, I'd like to start with MJ on this. Being that you come from both, right? And I definitely know that Cliff has a little bit of experience in the marketing realm. I know that for sure. MJ, what do you think? Do you think that marketing could do sales, should do sales? Will they do sales in the future? What do you think?
First of all, I think you're giving me way too much credit saying that I come from both. I had like about 12 months in the sales role, otherwise I'm 100% marketing. So I'm going to defer to the real sales.
Look, gurus that have done it for 6 months and they're talking about sales like it's like there's no tomorrow. So
that's true, but I thought we decided gurus is a bad word.
It is. We're gonna get away from it.
What do I think? I think there's going to be a lot of valid takes on this question. You could take it a lot of different directions, but the first thing that springs to mind for me is no, I don't think marketing should do sales. I think there's enough awesome stuff you can do that falls strictly within marketing and enough awesome stuff that you can do that falls strictly within sales, that there are two distinct roles that you can have two awesome people or departments doing. Like, there's enough value to be harvested in both those things that, you know, it's worth specializing in them. However, I do think the best marketers do things that look very sales-like. So I really think what made my career early on is my willingness to cold email and cold connect with random people in the industry to talk to them and actually learn one-to-one, usually in a non-sales situation, but that's how I used to do market research. And like, it's a salesy thing. It doesn't scale. Like, it's one-to-one interactions, but like, there's a reason why in a lot of organizations, the sales team knows way more about the customer than the marketing team. It's because a lot of marketers aren't willing to do salesy stuff. Like, so if you do salesy stuff as a marketer, you actually become a better, more impactful marketer.
Well said.
I think sales and marketing are two sides of the same coin, and I would toss CS in the that center filling of that, right? Like, you have to be able to understand the customer's buying journey, and however that journey is mapped and then run into a go-to-market process, everyone should be on the same page, right? CS needs to be bringing back feedback as part of that flywheel, back to product, back to marketing, back to sales. And everyone constantly needs to be sharing information, to MJ's point, so you can understand what additional value props and what's my additional TAM that I can go after. If I'm a salesperson, how do I know what other use cases that my clients are using that product for that we didn't typically think about, right? Like, you have to bring it all together. It's all one team, because the end goal is that you're all rowing in the same direction to drive your company towards a revenue goal or that next funding round or strategic M&A or an IPO, whatever it might be. But if everyone's doing their own thing, they're not talking, it doesn't happen, right? You're like 10 kayaks all going off in your own direction instead of being a boat that's being run by a coxswain that's everyone going in lockstep. So I think salespeople make awesome marketers. I think marketers make awesome salespeople. And I think CS folks should have a bit of both.
You just described exactly why the show exists. So this is exactly why the show exists. So for those who don't know or are new, or those of you who already know, so Reveting is a mixture of revenue and marketing put together who's making one word, right? So our objective from the start was, because I'm in sales and Jesse was in sales and now in marketing, we always looked at the two divisions being so siloed. And we all know that we've worked for companies like this, or maybe even currently working for companies like this, and people, of course, listening. Our objective was to try and shed light on what's possible if you actually take the opportunity to speak to each other. And we're very fortunate because all the episodes we've done so far, we've had no friction. You could see that the marketing people and the sales people get along famously. And I think there's other factors, there's external factors that are pushing them away from each other and not necessarily bringing them together, or inside influences even, let's call it. But I think some of these inside influences need to really consider the impact that's done internally and how that could affect the external process. So we're not saying that we're going to be the be all end all of that in any way. But what we're hoping is that by doing these episodes with both of you, and again, thank you so much for being here, that those who are watching and those in leadership watching are going to see that there's massive value by being able to do this communication.
Yep. So I guess it's my turn. Should marketing also do sales? I would say it's helpful if you can. I definitely have ran into marketers that, like you mentioned, MJ, there are some marketers who will never want to do sales and they'll shy away from it. And I think there are still roles for marketers like that. We do need people who can just sit there and create content all day. We do need people who can, do things, but it's going to be much better if you can understand the sales side. So I don't know. I think I'm just repeating what everybody else said. I think what it comes down to is finding shared goals. So you have to have a shared goal. Is that shared goal, and OKRs, so you have one goal, maybe revenue, but you've got to figure out like, what is that balance? Each company is different. Every company is unique. And when we can, I think the best way to drop the silos is to, of course, communication is key, right, Eddie? So that's like basically why this show started, because him and I started communicating about like all these like siloed like frustrations. But yeah, it's communication is key in all human relationships, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship, internal or external, like communication is key. But the way we're going to get everybody to communicate is to, one, I think attribution is a big problem. I think, yes, we have to focus on attribution. Marketers like to obsess over attribution. I'm just as guilty of that. But then what it always comes down to is, this was us. No, this was ours. Like, where did this lead come from? And like, that's like, I don't know. That's exactly. Like, that's where multi-touch, or even if you're looking at like the last touch, it's just like you can like go down a rabbit hole and you'll end up like starting battles. It's just like not even worth it. At the end of the day, marketing's out there creating demand. But I would also say your best salespeople now look more like marketers, look and act more like marketers, because just Amelia, for an example, she's out there creating a personal brand. So I think of personal branding as like a marketing effort. And so that's why I always say your best salespeople are starting to now look more like marketers. So it's important on both sides of the coin. It's better to be a marketer who understands sales. You're going to succeed faster. But it's the same on the reverse side. Like if you're in sales and you're just out there like cold pitch slapping everybody, like that's not going to work. Like you're going to have marketing acumen. So yeah. That's my point on it.
You can tell just by the way that you moved your head, Cliff, being in a VP of sales position, like you're basically on everybody's looking for you on Zoom.
It's terrible.
Everyone's looking for you on Zoom info right now. And I'm sure everyone's looking for MJ on Zoom info. So it's just, oh, look at that, VP. Click, send to contact into my CRM.
Do you need demand generation? Do you need lead gen services? Like, oh my goodness. And then we're in the Salesforce ecosystem too. So like every third company out of India just messages me constantly.
This is why I never change my title to anything over what I have it. The second you go anything higher, it's like, oh, look, a decision maker. And then you immediately get bombarded. So, no, but to that topic for me, the only thing that I don't ever see, and the thing that I'd like to see, and this is more of something I thought about in the past, I don't necessarily think that marketing needs to do sales. What I would like to see is maybe some outbound feedback questions, right? Because the one problem that you see with salespeople is they're not necessarily bringing feedback back to marketing. That's one thing that we always, at least me and Jesse have talked about, and me and many people have talked about, if I'm doing any type of consultation and whatnot, is you don't see enough salespeople bringing back data to marketing so that they can try and change the outcome. It's just like we're working off of what we know and what we see or anything that we're seeing out there. But maybe, just maybe, marketing could do some of their own outbound, but not to sell, but just to get feedback on what's actually out there, and then take that data back and then push out new or adjust, pivot, whatever you want to call it. Just a thought.
Oh, I do that. I definitely send out like, hey, can we talk 20 minutes? I'll buy you lunch. I'd like to learn about your business, because then you can, it's different than listening to like a gong call, right? Because on a gong call, it's the primary objective of that call is to do discovery, give a little value, move to the next part of the sales process. And there are insights in there. And it's a great way to round out your knowledge. But like, you can actually set up what I call a marketing discovery call, where the whole purpose is to learn and the person's agreeing to that, which most people won't, because they do have to agree to give you their time, right? For free or for lunch or whatever, which is a big ask. Then you can learn a ton of that. So if you can do 2 of those a quarter, you might have to send 40 outbound messages to get the 2, but it's super worth it as a marketer.
I believe so.
I just think from like an operating perspective, right? Having sales and marketing have that constant communication. There should be someone from marketing on the sales huddles on a weekly basis, that team meeting, right? Same thing. Someone from sales should be giving information over to marketing and sitting in and listening to what marketing's doing, right? That's the operating cadence. Get that set up and make sure that you're getting that information transfer back and forth between departments, not just on the team meetings, but also with the leadership, right? They need to have a one-on-one every week to make sure that they're in sync.
Another thing is marketing should always be not just welcome, but encouraged to sit in on sales calls.
Sure.
I think that you get a lot more from like being involved on the call than from listening to a gong call or, listening to like putting in keywords and gong and hearing, what was mentioned about that keyword. And I think that a lot of the times, marketers, they shy away from that. They don't want to be on those calls. And I think that, you're going to be able to, it just comes down to like what we were talking about before. Like you're going to be better at your job if you understand the other side, if you're in sales and marketing. It is what it is. They're blurring together. They're becoming one. Go ahead, Eddy.
No, it was more of a question, kind of statement question for both, but do you think that there should be something that's iterated internally to make the sales team, because look, I'm not ragging on sales because I am in sales, but this is kind of messed up me saying this, but I actually do it. I actually do bring data back to marketing. But do you think there should be some sort of process where we make the salespeople understand the value behind bringing the data back to marketing? Because if we were to say, we can say it on this show for whoever's listening, but for you to truly understand the value, you must understand what comes from the data. If you're talking to, let's say, 15 prospects over the course of 1 week, and every one of them has told you something different but similar, it's all within the boundaries of one thing. You take that back to marketing and say, this is what I'm seeing. And it's the same thing, but just said in different ways. Marketing then goes right to market with that data. So now, when and if, let's say, your potential prospect is going on either on your website or you're seeing your company's posts on LinkedIn, they're taking the data that you gave them based on the pain points that you've been talking about with your prospects. And now they're going to come to you saying, this is a problem I am having. And then immediately you jump into that. So I think that right there may be something that's more needed, communicating the real value behind bringing the data back. What do you both think?
I think that is probably a culture thing where it's like if sees the value of marketing and marketing like respects in the input they're getting from the sales team, then it's just naturally going to be incentivized and become a flywheel. Whereas if marketing doesn't actually appreciate the feedback they're getting from sales or act on it, and if sales doesn't think it's worth giving any feedback to marketing because they don't think marketing is going to do anything with it, then that's actually like the anti-flywheel where it just disincentivizes any collaboration between the two. So I think if you build the right culture, those kinds of behaviors are going to happen naturally. The exchange of information, they happen naturally at Colab. Certainly the sales team will drop a couple of bullets about almost every call they have in Slack. And if it's particularly, they think, pertinent to messaging or positioning, they'll tag me in it to make sure that I see it. And that wasn't anything that was necessarily enforced as a process. It was just the natural result of the culture and how we both appreciate both those functions.
That's wonderful.
I'm going to come at it from a different side, which is the data side, right? If you're not capturing this information somewhere consistently that's searchable, that's queryable, that you can actually run reporting against, it's very difficult to understand what the dollar impact of that could be. So I'm a big fan of, obviously, Salesforce or HubSpot, but I prefer Salesforce. We use Salesforce. Making sure you're capturing that data in a way that allows you to take it, show the sales team what they could be missing out on, like help them understand where to drive business and take that back to marketing, right? It's that flywheel. To MJ's point, it's the feedback loops. Go data.
Go data. I was almost about to do like a shameless plug of a company I do strategic advisorship with, but to your point, it's actually a tool that I like to use because it actually scripts everything that you have in the call, and then you can actually create certain insights. Those are the ones that are important. And again, look, I'm not going to name the tool right now, but there are tools out there that you can use where there are specific portions of the conversation you're having that are more impactful than others that you could drive not only to your own CRM, but you could tag people in marketing and get them to see it also. So this way it's immediate action. It's not just lagging. It's they know if you have 1 or 2 calls in that day and the same subject comes up, you can make immediate action. So
it's interesting. Like, is 1 or 2 calls enough of a signal to actually do something about it, or do you?
No, a day.
Oh, okay. 1 or 2 times is happening a day for a significant period of time. Where, it's statistically significant. Okay.
Exactly. Like if you have 10 calls a day.
It is worth mentioning though, like I don't think it has to be much more than 1 or 2. If like you're getting a really specific piece of feedback, like 6 calls, right? Like it probably is going to hold that pattern would continue to hold. I mean, it depends on how big the change is, right? Like if you're asking me to change the entire Q4 product roadmap, that's one thing. But if it's like, I've heard the same thing on 6 different calls, I should update the messaging on this page of the website. Like I'd go and do that tomorrow if I heard it on 3 calls, you know?
You just took exactly what I was going to say. It's like 2 out of the 6. If the same recurring thing happens, then we want to immediately change that. So then there's a new subject that's created on something entirely new. Like we want to just kind of interrupt that, pivot, change, come back, and start something anew.
And then the other question is like, is that person ICP? Is that someone that is in a stretch zone for us? Are they tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 prospect? Like, yeah.
That is an absolutely great.
Sorry, I'm going to go way too deep in that rabbit hole. I'm going to step back.
This is a good thing. It means it's a good subject that we can talk about. But
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So on LinkedIn, because we were talking about, being active on LinkedIn earlier. So what do you guys think about when someone's posting on LinkedIn with their personal brand and they start to get leads in their DMs, and say it's a marketer and the marketer's getting leads in their DMs, and that they've closed the trust gap with these people, and these people, they feel like they have a relationship with them, but then, you want to like hand them off to the sales team, but at the same time, like they want to be connected with you. So what's your take on that? Like, what should happen? Like, what's should the person who like closed the trust gap with them stay involved with the sale till the end? Or like, how's the best way to like hand it off to the sales team without making it feel like handing them off to the sales team?
I think it's okay to hand them off the sales team, because if the person is genuinely interested in the product and not just the person you're getting consulting from them, then I think they'll be okay with being handed off to the sales team. Our CEO generates a decent amount of inbounds in his DMs, and he hands them off to the sales team, and we don't have call out from the pipeline because of that.
I was going to say the same thing with our executive team, right? They hand stuff in all the time. Same thing with our consultants, right? They know people in the industry, people are seeing what we're doing and they're tapping them on the shoulder, and those are being filtered in the same way, right? Different skill sets.
Absolutely.
Agreed. Looks as though we may have somebody who wants to jump on as a surprise. Let me just give me a second here.
If she's blonde and Southern, say no.
And especially if she says y'all. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm pretty sure she'll be here for the after party. So if you both don't know what that is, once we're done, we're actually literally we passed 10 minutes, but I guess the subjects were really good. So normally around 10:45, 10:50, we close things off. In the past, we used to do the after party directly on the live where we'd get up to 10 people to join us. Unfortunately, it seems like 10 people was never enough. We used to have people that, would just kind of get stuck in the waiting room and we can never get them in. So now we moved it over to Google Meet where we have the capacity to go up to 100 people. So it's quite cool. Now, before we end though, a lot of people would love to know, as usual, who is the guru that you have chosen of this week?
Guru of the week. Ooh, guru of the week. Ooh.
I think I saw something in our chat, so I'm going to let you both go ahead and say it. I can count down if you want. You can say it at the same time, or...
Well, I think it's Cliff. I keep trying to point to him, and I don't know which way to point.
We always mess it up. Always.
The guru, so you
mess it up. Is it this way? No, this way. You always mess that up.
Yeah,
she's over there.
Yeah, and you're over here.
Anyway, our guru of the week, because I don't like gurus. I like people who actually know what the hell they're talking about and can walk the walk and talk the talk. I chose our boy KD, Kevin Dorsey. He's real, right? I think most of the people on this call have been able to glean something from KD over the last few years, and I got to give him a shout out because he actually does everything he preaches. I know the people that he's produced, and they're fantastic sales leaders themselves, and he's passed on great culture. So, and I love Rex. If you don't know what Rex is, reach out to him, or I can have a chat with you about that too. But it's how he levels up culture and capability within a sales team.
I'm with you on that. When it comes to KD, the one thing that I learned from him, and this is something that he said a long time ago in one of his posts, and then made a small video about it, is how too many salespeople are winging it instead of going through a specific process. And that's one thing that used to really piss me off, because I always lived by a process with anything that I ever did. Then I became a little bit egotistical. I won't lie. I built ego because over time, after over 10, 15 years, eventually when you do the one thing all the time, it becomes second nature. But then I started winging it, maybe more than my own capacity. And I had to tame myself back and say, shit, man, you might need to work on a process like you used to before to just create symmetry. And I saw KD's post and I'm like, holy crap, that makes so much sense. So I came back to reality and I said, all right, what you used to do, just evolve it. And I started evolving it again, and I was able to preach it onto others because it made so much sense. So thank you for that, KD. And I'm glad that you were the one that was actually part of our show today. So it looks like we have somebody with us today, but they changed the image.
Someone.
What?
I don't know, Karen.
Can you hear me?
Karen, we hear you, Karen. How's it going today?
It's not going well. That's for sure. I'm here for a reason. There's definitely a reason that I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. Tell us more.
All right. You really want to know, Jesse? I think you know. I think you do know. Well, the SaaS kids they keep calling my cell phone. I keep calling Brandon from Seamless AI, and I want them to take me off their list, okay? I'm getting so annoyed by this right now. It is driving me nuts. I get called all day long from the SaaS kids, and I hate it. Tell them to stop calling my personal cell phone. I've got a big HR department to run here, and I'm just really upset with this. Please stop calling me, okay? I don't want you to call my mobile. I'm on the do not call government websites.
So for those who don't know, Karen is I don't even know what I would call Karen. Kids.
She's at the soccer field all the
They
time.
download ebooks and they think, oh, they'll just call me. I just like downloading ebooks. These marketing teams put together such beautiful ebooks right now. And I just can't wait to download the new ones that come out. They put colors on them. I mean, the content's always the same. It's clear they're just copy and pasting it, but the colors are beautiful. And the way that they structure these ebooks makes me want to download it through those gates. And they're free. It's not like there's really anything important there. And I download them, and then the SAS kids won't stop calling me. I got Henry. I want Henry, take me off your list, and Brandon Bornson, take me off your list. Get out of the Ferrari. I want to get off your list.
Does anybody have anything to say to Karen today?
So what do you guys say to the Karens of the world?
Take me off your list, SAS kids. I'm done with you.
I don't think any of our guests have actually ever witnessed Karen before.
This is
Yeah.
incredible. We don't cold call. So I don't have SDRs. All of my AEs are full cycle. So there's that. Sorry, that sucks.
Good for you for
Be
having
better.
You seem like a nice young gentleman. It doesn't sound like you're calling me, are you?
No, I couldn't tell you the last time I picked up the phone to call a client that wasn't already paying me.
See, I like you. It's these
We
SAS kids, they hang out.
we do outbound, but not off of ebook downloads. So.
I like this group, this MJ Cliff group. This is a good group. I could see another starting maybe on Thursday nights with these two. I'd still join.
This is
Yeah,
all-
maybe these companies need to learn to do a little bit better when it comes to their lead scoring. Right?
I
Download
am
and webinar
angry
attendance
right
don't
now.
count.
I wish
for
I could
everything.
tell you how bad and mad I am at the SAS kids who won't stop calling me. It's bothering me, okay? I don't like it. It's one-sided. They keep calling my cell. They do these like demon dials where they just hit it 25 times. Call back, call
Demon
back, call back, call back. You know, they're possessed. And I need them to stop. I call their managers and their managers give them a raise. What do I do?
Karen, I have a question for you. Would you rather get a cold email or a cold call?
Oh, definitely a cold email because I don't see it. It just goes into the spam folder every time.
Oh yeah, it's
There's no
delivered.
reason to even worry about those. I mean, obviously, when the SAS kids start calling me though, that's when I have to pick. Sometimes little Johnny's soccer games are going on, and I'm sitting there watching the game, you know, having a couple of cocktails with Nelson, and he hates SDRs. You've seen what he thinks of SDRs. I mean,
Oh,
death of the
Nilsson, I went on
SDR.
his show. Yeah, Death of the SDR.
Yeah, well, we're watching little Johnny at soccer practice, and guess what? The SAS kids are calling me. They keep calling my personal cell phone, and I hate it.
In the defense of the SAS kids, I think they're probably just trying to get promoted to AE in less than 18 months.
Let's
so.
just promote him now, though. Can we get robots to do that job?
Do we really want to though?
Seriously.
Yeah, I think that would be
Look, I
worth.
just want him to stop calling me. That's for sure.
I don't know. My buddy's building a pretty good SDR robot right now.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting. An SDR robot?
I hope so.
Oh,
For their sake, because I'm
It
angry.
uses intent data.
I am so angry at these SAS kids, though. They call my cell phone. Now that their companies aren't worth as much, they have to call more, too. There's another problem going on right now.
yeah. It's bananas, literally.
Oh, nanas. Well, I can let you all get back to your show. Stop calling my personal cell phone. It's unacceptable. I no longer want to be called by the SAS kids. Take me off your list.
All right, Karen Johnson. Everybody take Karen Johnson off your call list. It's just like not even worth it to call her.
Is Karen Johnson a CISO?
I don't think they're a CISO. I don't think they're a CISO. Oh God.
All right. Well, is it after party time?
It's after party time. So if you both would like to stick around, I'm going to put a link inside of the comments. It's going to take us to a Google Meet instead. That way we don't have to all be stuck live chatting about maybe stuff that we want to talk about that are more sensitive than not, or just stuff that we, LinkedIn is not too friendly when it comes to swear words. And in the past, we've had guests that get very passionate about certain subject. And, we want to stay on this platform as long as possible. So I'm going to go ahead and insert the link in the comments. Go ahead and join. Luckily, we can be up to 100 people, and it's getting late, so I know some people have dropped off. But nonetheless, even if we're 5 or we're 10 or 15 and 20, I'm happy with either or. We love having everybody on. So before we do depart, we do want to say thank you very much, extremely, very much to both of our guests today, both MJ and Cliff. The insight that they gave us, and I mean, look, I'm going to sideline this. One of the reasons I also love this show is because I learned so damn much that I could do in my everyday career. So thank you both for being here. We hope that you come back on. We messed the surprise up at one point, but we will look to have eventually something along the lines of an all-star show, and we would love to have you both back on. So we will communicate with you. And if you want to stay with us for the after party so that some people can ask you some questions, I'm dropping the link as we speak. It is now inside of the comments. So in the comments for LinkedIn, and I'm assuming Jesse's going to pop it up on the main screen. Obviously, no one's going to type it out. Please don't. I don't even know if you could do it through the actual show. But nonetheless, go ahead and hop on.
All right. I will see you all there.
Ciao, everybody. Thank you so much.